Hi, I'm Pio from Ratings.com. Today, we'll be looking at the popular Hisense U6K. It's a budget TV packed with features and sells for less than most models from other brands. We've bought and tested the 65-inch model, but our results are also valid for the 55 and 75-inch models. Is this truly one of the best budget TVs from 2023? Only one way to find out. Let's dive in, shall we? This TV has an alright build quality. The plastic on the back flexes a bit, but this is common and won't cause any issues. It has 2 feet that you can adjust to a wide or narrow position depending on your needs. The wider position is more stable but takes up more room, while the narrow position is great for smaller tables. The feet lift the TV about 3 inches off the table, so you can place most soundbars in front of it without blocking the screen. Just note that if the feet are set in a narrow position, the space between the feet is only 12 inches, so most soundbars won't fit between them. From the front, it has a functional design with thin bezels on 3 sides and one slightly thicker one on the bottom. Nothing out of the ordinary. Like many other 2023 models, such as the Hisense U7K, screws are visible on the back frame of the TV. It's not a big deal since most of us typically watch our TVs from the front, but it's last year's peculiar design trend. Most of the inputs come out the side, so they're easy to access if you have the TV on a stand. But like most TVs, they can be hard to reach when mounted flush against the wall. Unfortunately, it has a few inputs that stick out directly from the back, including one of its HDMI ports, which will be hard to reach if the TV is well mounted. The TV comes with a simple but functional remote. It has quick access buttons to popular streaming services. Like the TV itself, it has a built-in mic that you can use to search for content, open apps, and switch inputs. There's also a privacy switch on the bottom right side of the TV that turns off the TV's integrated microphone in case you're concerned about privacy. It comes with version 11 of the popular Google TV operating system, unlike some of Hisense's other 2023 TVs, which are on version 12. Still, version 11 is fast, and while it's not the easiest SmartOS to use, it's very powerful once you fully understand its intricacies. There are ads throughout the interface that you can't turn off. Sadly, this is the price we all must pay when using our TVs nowadays. Moving on, the TV has 4 HDMI ports in total. None of them have HDMI 2.1 bandwidth, so you're stuck with 4K at 60 Hz on this TV, which isn't surprising at this price point. One of the HDMI ports also doubles as an ER port. On top of that, the TV has 2 USB ports, a digital optical audio port, an analog audio out port, and an Ethernet port. It also has a composite input, which requires an adapter that isn't included in the box. Okay, so we've talked about the TV's looks, but how does it look? Well, for the price, it's pretty darn good. Its contrast is excellent with local dimming, which is a welcome feature for a budget TV. Blacks are deep, and it looks good when viewed in a dark room. While this TV's local dimming does truly improve its contrast, it isn't without its faults. The TV really struggles with lighting zone transitions. Even slowly moving objects are visibly dimmer than they should be, and when the objects are moving quickly, they can even disappear. While few highlights move that fast in actual content, it could lead to very dim highlights in fast-moving scenes. Plus, the local dimming does lead to some blooming around text and brighter highlights when they are against blacks or near blacks. This can be slightly distracting, but even with its faults, we don't recommend turning off local dimming, as it adds to the overall experience. This TV has good peak brightness in SDR and decent reflection handling, so it's certainly good enough to watch your favorite shows in a bright room. However, it struggles when you have a light or bright window directly opposite the screen. The screen's coating doesn't diffuse these types of reflections very well, leaving a big blotch of light sitting on top of your favorite content. So just make sure to close the blinds and turn off the lights if you have any of those opposite your TV, and you'll be just fine. Calibration is a tricky topic for cheaper TVs. Who wants to save money on the budget model only for it to require an expensive calibration afterward to look half decent? I sure don't want that. For that reason, it's a nice bonus if a budget TV looks good out of the box, and guess what? The Hisense U6K looks great out of the box. The color temperature is almost perfect, and gamma is almost right on target, so the TV is neither too bright nor too dark. The white balance is very good too. This TV is accurate enough for almost anyone. And if you do want to calibrate it, you can make it look even better. What a product! But what if you want to watch HDR content? Like most TVs at this price point, it looks brighter in SDR than in HDR, especially if you have the backlight cranked up when watching SDR content. Some highlights pop in HDR, so you will still have a better overall experience than in SDR, but it's certainly not the best HDR experience we have ever seen. It's alright and it does the job. Luckily, even if it doesn't wow with its HDR brightness, it might wow you with how accurate its HDR highlights are. I'm sensing a trend here. This TV is one accurate product. Nice. Its blacks are raised, which means that shadows tend to be a bit brighter than they should be, but after that, it just barely over-brightened throughout the rest of the curve. The TV also preserves some bright details when it's near its peak brightness to truly squeeze all the juice from its capabilities. We're not done with image quality. This TV's color gamut is excellent. It has truly fantastic coverage of the DCI-P3 color space used in HDR content. It might not be bright enough to display a truly impressive HDR image, but at least its colors are colorful. It even has a very good coverage of the wider Rec 2020 color space. There are some accuracy errors with desaturated colors, but really, you won't notice that. It's solid. Sadly, this TV has an inadequate viewing angle, although that's common in Hisense's TV lineup. The image fades and looks washed out as you move even slightly off-center. How much this impacts you depends on how you want to use this TV. If you want to host large parties with people eating popcorn all around the TV, you might hear some whimpering from those who must view the TV from the side. You'll need to make it up to them somehow. But you'll be fine if you always sit right in front of the TV. If you're watching movies with a Blu-ray player or streaming box or are using the built-in apps, you'll be happy to know it can remove 24p Judder from any source except 60Hz interlaced sources. Luckily, most cable boxes support either 720p or 1080i, so just go with 720p and you'll be A-OK. In terms of its processing, it does a decent enough job. The TV can preserve fine details in low-quality content, and the content itself looks clear. But there's a lot of pixelation and macro blocking, especially in dark scenes, which can be a bit distracting. As stated earlier, this TV has no HDMI 2.1 inputs, so it tops out at 4K at 60Hz. It supports 1440p at 60Hz, which is a nice bonus for PC gamers. The TV can do 1080p at 120Hz, but we didn't pass it in our tests as it doesn't work well. Its input lag is higher than it should be, and text clarity is affected. For that reason, stick to 60Hz, which has no problem with text clarity and has low input lag when displaying Chroma 444 signals in game mode. The TV even supports VRR, although it only covers a narrow range of 48Hz to 60Hz, but it works nicely for the quality modes of your favorite console games. Speaking of input lag, it's truly fantastic in any resolution running at 60Hz. Enabling the high refresh rate mode increases the input lag at all resolutions except 1080p at 120Hz, which, as we've just said, doesn't work well. Just disable the high refresh rate mode and you'll be very happy with this TV's input lag. This TV's response time is good. Not exceptional, not abysmal, just good. Any gamer shopping in this price point will likely be satisfied with it. But compared to more expensive products, it can feel a bit slow, especially when coming out of dark states, such as when playing horror games. If you play with a console, the TV supports VRR, HDR, and auto low latency mode, making it a pretty darn good console gaming TV for a good price. It even supports Dolby Vision gaming at 4K at 60Hz. If you're wondering what happens if you force the TV into its 1080p at 120Hz mode when playing on a console, it results in frame skipping, slow input lag, and a muddy image. Don't do it. Stick to 60Hz. Like most TVs, it uses pulse width modulation, or PWM, to dim its backlight. It flickers at a fast 480 Hz in all picture modes except filmmaker mode, which flickers at 600 Hz. This is high enough for most people, but those who are very sensitive to flicker could be affected by it. Lastly, let's check out its speakers. Like almost every TV ever made, their speakers aren't great, but they sound good enough for your grandparents. Dialogue is clear and easy to understand with very little distortion at moderate listening levels, but when you're listening to Metallica or Dua Lipa at max volume, gotta cover all generations, you can really hear the distortion. There's very little bass, so Dua's Houdini just doesn't sound like it should. As always, just get a soundbar, you can thank us later. So, should you buy this TV? If you're shopping at this price, you should buy it. This TV's performance isn't as good as the more expensive Hisense U7K, but it's still one of the best, if not the best, budget TVs released in 2023. It's cheap, performs well, and is good enough for most consumers. Still, if you can stretch your budget, the Hisense U7K is the better option due to its much brighter SDR and HDR presentation, deeper blacks, and 4K at 144Hz capabilities. For those specifically looking for a cheap gaming TV, the TCL Q6 could be a better choice. You're losing the local dimming feature of the U6K, but you're gaining a brighter overall image and the ability to run your games at 120Hz in 1080p and 1440p with a wide VRR range. Alright, that's all for our review of the Hisense U6K. If you want a more detailed write-up on the TV, check out our written review. The link is in the description below. Click it, trust me, it's worth it. Until next time, I'm Pio from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs. Bye! Just note that if the feet are set screws are visible on the back. That was also pretty fast. Screws are visible. On top of that, the TV has 2 USB ports. Sorry. Like many other 2023 TVs. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say TVs.